City of Lawrence Common Council Administrative Budget and Finance Committee meeting is now called to order. It is March 19th, 2025, and it is now 5:33 p.m. Can everyone please stand for Pledge of Allegiance and prayer? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, I pray that you are present and that you lead us and guide us in this meeting as we conduct the business of the city. We thank you for all you are and all you do, and we ask for your wisdom, guidance, and discernment. In your blessed name we pray. Amen. Amen. Okay, we have all members present and accounted for. First on the agenda is unfinished business, 2024 budget report. And I think I'd like to actually take item A and B and let's consolidate those because one is the December budget report and the other is 2024 budget report. Is there anyone here from the Controller's Office or the administration? Oh, hi, Controller. That just wants to come up and just give us a brief overview for the record of where we ended in 2024, as well, which would include, obviously, December. And we did get those packets at our last meeting. But I would like for that, just overall overview of the 2024 budget to just be presented on the record. So what was budgeted, where we started, where we ended, and out of any surplus or deficit for 2024, how that was handled. Now I'll give you a minute, no problem. Good evening.
Good evening, council members and council chair. I would like to request to circle back up to this just so I can get the right report, the full report that was shared with the council, and then we can review that if that's okay with this.
So at the next meeting, because I think this is the second time we've tabled it, so if it needs to be at the full council, I'm okay with that. It doesn't need to, we'll check with President Kramer, but if he's okay with it, I would really prefer that we not wait a whole nother month to get that. So if President Kramer is agreeable to adding that to the first meeting of the month, 2024, budget overview, that would be great.
And we do have that information. I'm just clarifying something real quick before I present it, so we can either do it on this meeting, I'm just saying just to circle.
You need a little time?
Yes.
Okay, I can give you a little time. We'll just move it to the back side of the agenda.
That's what
And if you're not ready, we can do it during, maybe we can add it during discussion or something, or comments of the council members or something like that.
And that was my request, really.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to new business. New business, Controller's Office requests for the Lawrence Common Council to avoid outstanding checks issued before 12/31/2022. So I'm going to open that up for discussion. And I think we've been given an overview on why we're being requested to do this. And from my recollection, there's a policy that's in place whereby we should be voiding checks. Is it after 2 years?
After 3 years.
After 3 years?
And I do have the process on how to
Yep.
go about that up until how we submit. So if you wish, I'd be glad to go through the whole process.
And,
or if you have
you
any
know,
questions.
I think it would be good for the record, just for you to go over the process. We did receive that, though, in writing. Each council member did receive that. But I would love for you to
Sure.
if you just can hit the highlights, that would be great.
Yep. So basically, the checks that are voided, they are checks that are 3 years. So checks that are sitting in our system and they have 3 years of inactivity are considered old checks, and that's how we label them when we void them. There's a process that we use internally to identify these checks. One of them is we use the void payment edit listing from our software system to identify these checks. And then, of course, we cross-check them with a void payment post listing. That's also another report that we run and make sure that these voids have been recorded correctly. The description that we give these checks are canceled old checks, just basically showing that these checks were never cashed. And then some checks may need to be reissued, especially if they belong to employees or vendors who are still entitled to their payments. Then, so the checks that are actually truly voided are qualified and considered as unclaimed property. And this is a state requirement. So these would be checks that are over 3 years old. And then for checks that were voided and they're over $50, we make an attempt to contact the payee no more than 180 days and no less than 60 days before filing the report with the Auditor General. We first also send a written notice and send it via first-class mail to the payee and notify them that they have checks that need to be voided. If we do not hear from the payee, the checks will be treated as unclaimed property, and they will be filed with the Indiana Unclaimed Property Division by November 1st for general business and by May 1st for life insurance agencies. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much the whole process for these voided checks.
And so that's November 1st of what?
Of 2025, so
Okay.
this year. So remember, we requested, brought it before the council for approval to void them on March 1st, before
Yeah.
March 1st.
Yeah.
And then, so by statute, we should make sure that those are filed by November 1st.
Okay. Okay. Questions?
Yes. On the checks, are there watermarks saying that this check is non-void after 180 days or something like that, or?
I would have to verify that on our city checks. I know some checks usually have those.
Right, because I used to work in the, whatever, and there, on the checks, they were saying after 180 days, it's voided.
I think most checks, that's kind of standard for checks, that they would be considered void after 180 days. And yes, so automatically they would be. But as far as the state is concerned, they basically consider them void after 3 years of inactivity, of them not being cashed.
Okay. Is there any way, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Is there any way that we can go paperless, like on checks where they can be direct deposit? I know some people don't like that, but, I mean, we're a business or corporation. We all should be direct deposit regardless.
And we have had initial conversations with our bank regarding that. There are, obviously, to any great plans, there's always drawbacks and challenges. Some of them that just popped up, and we're really at advanced stages of those conversations, but one of the challenges at hand is, the way we generate those vouchers for council's approval, they're the check numbers and the manual. So doing wire transfers or direct deposits, we kind of have to figure out a way where those vouchers would still be able to be reviewed by the council, unless we revise that whole process as well. So I know that was an issue that came up on that, but again, it's still in its advanced stages, so we're trying to see how we can best work on that.
So I have a question regarding, it says the checks issued before 12/31/2022, but our policy says that we void them after 3 years.
Right.
So if I have a check dated 12/30/2022, 3 years isn't until 12/30/2025.
And so those would be verified to make sure that that's the first stage of the process where we cross-check those void payments to make sure that they actually fall in that 3-year category.
So why doesn't our proposal say issued before 12/31? I don't know how we came about with the 12/31/2022 date. Was it because the last time we actually did this was 2019?
I'm not aware because that's not a new ordinance, right? That wasn't signed this year, correct?
No. Mm-mm.
Right. So I'm not sure as to why they would derive that. But we are doing back in-house, we are going back and reviewing those checks to make sure they are truly 3 years by cross-checking them
Okay.
per the state.
Okay. What other questions? So, then if anybody else has one, I have one. So unclaimed property. So once these checks are listed under unclaimed property per the state statute, and then we would have already voided them, right? If we pass this, we would have already voided them. You report them to unclaimed property. I'm just making sure I understand it. You report them to unclaimed property. If people come forward and claim, say, yes, you do owe me that $200, then you're saying you just reissue the payment.
Well, I don't believe we can reissue once we file it with the Auditor General as unclaimed property because it does say for checks that we do make attempts before we file those claims, those checks.
So what's the point of going to unclaimed property if people can't claim it?
Well, we're just following the
Yeah.
state process. So they're saying for checks that are over $50, we need to make an attempt to contact them no more than 180 days or before filing the report, basically. So we are making that attempt. We are calling them as well as sending them first-class mail. And I believe the state is assuming if we still don't hear from them after attempting to contact them, then it's truly unclaimed property.
Okay. And so, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I understand this, because I know sometimes with unclaimed property, it's for like estates, right? So the person has passed away, but the estate is entitled to the money. So if it's an unclaimed property, then typically the estate could claim those funds that are owed to that estate. So I'm just asking, when we void all these checks, that's going to equal how much? How much do we have? What's the total dollar amount of checks that you're asking us to void? I looked at the sheet, but I don't remember there being a total.
Right. So right now, basically, we are still going back. We are doing the cross-checking and going through each of those checks to make sure that they have been properly, the accounts office is doing that, to ensure that they're truly voided, they're truly 3 years and above. And I actually look at this process, the last part of this process is saying in capital, do not issue new checks to the original owner when submitting unclaimed funds. So it sounds like once we get to that point where we have to file them, then you can't reissue them after we've tried to make those attempts.
Okay. You guys have questions?
What's the amount?
Yeah,
The amount?
So, yeah, the amount that you sent us a list of, it was pages.
Right.
How much was it?
I don't have the total for the amount, it's on that list, so all of that.
And with those dollars, they'll go back, where will they go?
To the auditors general, if we are not able to get hold of the payees.
So they don't go back to us?
No, they do not, because they'll be treated as unclaimed property.
It goes to the
So
attorney,
they are out of the city once, so.
it goes to the Attorney General's office.
He
Yes.
said Auditor General. Is it Auditor General or Attorney General?
Yeah,
Attorney-
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
keep saying Auditor General, Attorney General's office. But they do not go to the reserves for the city once we consider them truly void.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought they would come back to us.
No, but, okay. I think, do you guys have more questions? If you have questions, please ask them, because I think I'm still a little stumped on, once we submit, this is what I think I'm piecing together. Once we've gone through our process and attempts to notify, and we submit it to unclaimed property, that then that monies becomes the Attorney General's. If there is a claim on that unclaimed property, they'll basically go to the Attorney General
Correct.
to get the money.
Correct, and that's what they're telling us. The state is telling us at the end, we cannot reissue those checks
And-
once we file them.
So, and we're confident that we have documented attempts of trying to reach these people and make sure that because like, I was going through the list and there's people on that list that like literally sit out here in this audience.
So,
So I just want to make sure that we've actually gone through the process, the notification process, so that, we can make this process as easy as we can for our vendors, our constituents, et cetera.
and like I said, we have 180 days before we can file those. So right now, what we're doing is we're going back to that list and cross-checking each one of those and making sure that they qualify as voided checks. Then the next phase would be to contact those payees, attempt to contact those payees.
So is this coming to us prematurely? Because it sounds like we have some lists, but it sounds like the list that we have is not validated. So I just want to make sure, because it sounds like this is work in progress, or is what we have been given, has it already been validated?
It has all been validated as void checks. Those are checks that are sitting there from 2022 or whatever. They have not been cashed. They don't have any activity in our system. We have been able to collect those checks and brought them before you for approval. Power state requirement, that is the first step.
Yep.
Bring it to the council
Yep.
and let them know these checks have been sitting here for so long due to inactivity. And then the next part is us in-house, internally, doing the due diligence and making sure that out of those checks, if there are employees who are still within the city, or if there are vendors who still work with the city and they're entitled to their payments, we could still pay them. They've all been approved by the council due to inactivity.
Right.
Now we are now breaking it down further. Do we still have employees that's still entitled to these payments, or vendors?
I think I follow you, Controller. It sounds like the second step should be the first step to me, but it's okay.
Right.
I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Ask a question.
Yes.
So to be clear, what you're saying is you're asking for the authority to move it on to the next step.
Yes, that's what it
But
sounds.
you're going to
steps.
continue to try to search for the people that are owed that money, correct?
So the council's responsibility is to approve these checks that have been sitting here due to inactivity to be voided, to follow the step of being voided all the way to being filed at the Attorney General's office. That is the responsibility of the council. But there's several steps that follow right after that.
My question was, all you're doing is looking for the authority to take it to the next step, and you said yes.
Right.
My next question, I think, was, excuse me, Oh, I forgot.
That's okay. And I appreciate you going through the policy, but I've been on this council 10 and a half years. I've never had anybody come to me for approving voided checks. So this is new, and I know Sharon been on here way longer than me, and she's never gone through it. So this is new to all of us. Obviously, it's new to everybody because nobody's ever been through it before, so we appreciate your patience answering our questions. Is there any other questions that you all have for the controller at this time? Okay, if not, I'd look for a motion to recommend to full council, either favorable, unfavorable.
Make a motion to move to the council, favorable?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Controller, do you need a little bit more time on the first item? You're going to just cover it in the council meeting?
I just spoke to the council president, and I believe he might be able to put it in the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay,
at 6.
that sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next is other business. There is none. We're adjourned.